Okay, so we checked out Una.
Yes, we did. Let's talk about it.
Una is a film adaptation of the theatre play Blackbird and is directed by Benedict Andrews, who is actually a theatre director and has come on to do this as his first ever film. It stars Rooney Mara, Ben Mendelsohn, and the music's by Jed Ketzel, our boy.
Don't forget that it's got Riz Ahmed in it as well.
Riz
and
Ahmed,
Tobias Menzies from Game of Thrones.
And Ruby Stokes, who plays a younger version of our lead character Una, who is fantastic.
And let's get right into it, because this movie has a really, really dense subject matter. Basically, our main character, Una, who's played by Rooney Mara, is going after trying to meet up with Ben Mendelsohn, whose name is Ray in this film, who basically, they had a relationship when she was 13 and he was, I don't know, in his 40s or something at the time. And it's kind of exploring this pedophilic relationship that they had and how they've had to try to cope with that over the last 15 years. So that's dense as hell going into, like, this is really, really a full-on film subject-wise, and it's really, really heavy and intense the entire time, but it makes for a really, really thrilling movie that really has a lot of weight while you're watching it. It kind of, all the ideas are communicated better than that. All the ideas are communicated really well.
And this film is so goddamn delicate, and you have to be when you're dealing with a subject matter like this, because you have to be delicate with your audience, you have to be delicate with the characters and the story that you're telling. But
that doesn't mean that we don't feel all of it, as I'm saying.
No, not at all.
Really
but
stacks
like
it on.
the way they go about it is just incredible, because we get a representation of these characters in the world that's like completely understandable, but at no point do you really kind of hate them. Well, at least for us, we didn't hate them.
That's what you were saying. You were saying you found it understandable, whereas I was like, I don't think I can really understand what these characters are going through, but at the same time, I can kind of sympathize with both of them, really, which is a testament to just how good Ben Mendelsohn was here.
100%. You can, like, as actors talk about when they're talking about their characters, like, as long as I understand the character, then I don't have to, acknowledge or relate or like what they're doing. And I think that's what we get here, is we got like Rooney Mara and Ben Mendelsohn presenting these characters in a really understandable way, or at least they try to, because what they are talking about is really quite fucked up.
I mean, you keep saying that, but I feel like I really took this kind of differently. Like, yes, they do a good job to try to get you into a state of being where you can kind of grasp what this experience is like, both back then and in this moment right now for both of these people. But I don't think I can ever, without being there and without truly being able to understand what both of them were feeling for each other at this time, I don't think I can truly grasp that. But what I can do is understand now and sympathize with how it's both changed both of their lives, how it's affected them for the worse in pretty much every way up until this point. And I think that the fact that, let's just dive into performances, springboard into performances off here. I want to start with Ben Mendelsohn here, because his character here, I mean, you're basically dealing with a character who's a pedophile and who's been able to move on with their life as hard as it has been. He's changed his name. He's kind of rebuilt a new life for himself a long way away from where this all happened. And the fact that there's somehow some character that's so messed up and couldn't be further removed from something that I'm comfortable with, I can kind of like, they let you access this relationship that they had, which is actually built as something quite beautiful. And the whole time you're aware of it being like, you're like, this is really messed up that I'm buying into this. But it's a testament to just how good the performances are here across the board, that you can kind of just feel for what they're going through.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I mean when I am saying understanding as well. It's like, like I get what they're presenting. You know, of course, like, we're not going to be able to feel it because that's completely fucked up. But like, for such a harsh topic, instead of, bringing like a border that makes the audience hate these characters, we don't. They really try to be delicate with you so you can see the circumstances through their eyes and through their characters. And moving on to that, Rooney Mara and Ruby Stokes here. We're going to talk about both of them and the way they play Una, because what a complex character and what a, horrific character to have to play, and you just feel so goddamn sorry for both of them the entire time. And the director works so hard with Ruby Stokes as the younger version to make her kind of really curious and, a fun and just a normal 13-year-old girl who just kind of stumbles upon this guy. And then he works really hard with Rooney Mara to create a performance that is just absolutely heartbreaking. You have a girl that literally has just been, more or less molested when she was younger and now has altered her entire life. So she's not the same person from that moment onwards. And it's just, it's heartbreaking to watch, but Rooney Mara just gets the performance so right.
As she always does. I think Rooney Mara is really making a strong push right now to be considered one of the greatest actresses of all time. She just doesn't seem to put a foot wrong. And this really is like, it's really tender performances from both of them. I think what I really appreciate about this film is that usually in the past we've seen films where there's been sexual predators, they're portrayed as obviously like they're sexual predators the same way the news would portray them. They're really nasty, they're really horrible. And to a degree, these characters usually just like to be able to do what they're doing, there has to be some form of nastiness there. But the fact that everyone involved in making this movie is able to access this tender side of Ben Mendelsohn here, and I mean, he really is just a fantastic actor, and as is Rooney Mara. The fact that their relationship is kind of, you can buy into it. I don't think I can get past just how incredible that is, that this is something that you can kind of buy into, and I think a lot of people are going to watch this and feel like really like it's going to be a really aggravating film. It's going to make a lot of people mad, but I think the fact it's getting responses from people is something that's really important here. And I mean, on the technical side here, it's not really over the top. It's supposed to be natural. It's supposed to be really kind of in the moment. This film does set up some fantastic scenarios because obviously it's adapted from a play and it plays in this one location. They managed to use the couple of locations that they have really effectively. They build some really, really interesting scenarios using the spaces that they have to work with. It's not to say the lighting is ever super stylized. It's not to say the soundtrack is ever really over the top. But there's definitely some really pulse-pounding moments that the film manages to build.
And just touching on the writing of the film, this is such a fantastic story. The way it is structured. I mean, like, I'm not too familiar with the play and how Blackbird is structured as a play, but as a film, it uses flashbacks to really allow us to connect with the kind of the present world that we're situated in with Rooney Mara and Ben Mendelsohn, and also the previous one where Una is a 13-year-old
Yeah, uses
girl.
that one to connect with this one now, I guess, yeah.
And those flashbacks are so goddamn precious. Like, it's really interesting the way they use them, because there's nothing that's visually like over the top or explicit at all. Everything's really delicate, and it's just as is. It's just like a 13-year-old hanging out with a 40-year-old, which is kind of fucked up to look at, but they try to make it everything soft and like, I don't know, like,
you never see any of the pedophilic acts, I guess. Basically, what you see is the moments in between that they share. There's them walking on the beach. There's them, you know, kind of like in the street.
Hands.
Yeah, and it's such a bizarre thing to watch, but it's like, I don't know, it's just something magical this film was able to tap into that most people just wouldn't be able to access usually as filmmakers. So it makes for a really, really visceral experience. And I must say this is one of those movies that builds towards a really, really intense and thrilling climax. You never know quite where this movie is going to go on a moment-to-moment basis. And by the time the film ends, you're left with just this really kind of profound experience. It's not something that most people will easily be able to make sense of, but I don't think they can, because the characters can't really make sense of it either.
So yes, if you get a chance to check out Una and you're really feeling up to it, go for it, because it's worth it for the performances bare minimum, if not the story and the feeling you're going to get left with when you walk out of that cinema. But anyway, I'm giving this one an 8.8.
And I'm giving this one an 8.5, as Jay said. If you're up for the challenge, take it on board, because it's definitely a worthwhile experience. So that was our review of Una. Have you seen it yet?
Did you like it?
Did you hate it?
Did you like this video?
Of course you did.
Crave more banter?
If so, subscribe to our YouTube channel down there somewhere.
And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, all at Breaking Banter.